Life can feel overwhelming. And as a grandfather who has spent years raising kids and now grandkids, I learned that sometimes the smallest practices can hold just a little bit of grandfatherly wisdom. So let me ask you, do you ever wake up in the morning with your mind racing, worries, unfinished chores, second guessing something you did yesterday? Whether you're raising kids, managing work stress, or just trying to keep your balance, sometimes it can feel like you've run a marathon before you've even had breakfast. That's why today I wanted to share a little 5-minute reflection, a simple practice, a little piece of parenting advice and life wisdom, if you will. It's helped me and it just might help you too. It's a habit that calms anxiety, builds resilience, and it helps you wake up with a lighter heart in the morning. So modern life can be overwhelming. Our minds evolved over millennia to recognize dangers, lions in the grass, not to deal with 47 unread emails before you even get down to work in the morning. So if you find yourself focusing on what went wrong instead of what went right, it's not that you're broken. That's just the way humans' minds are wired. But here's the good news. You can give your mind a different story to carry into tomorrow. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, lived more than 2,000 years ago. He said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Now, yeah, he didn't have to live with smartphones and traffic jams. He merely was running the largest empire on earth at the time. But he knew the same truth that we know today. If our thoughts are always negative, our days are going to go negative too. But if we can train our thoughts to what is good and true, life can get lighter and we can become more effective. So about 7 years ago, I worked overseas in United Arab Emirates at a nuclear plant project they had going. The project I was assigned to eventually was something I had never done before, under a boss who was, let's just say, challenging. He was extremely smart, but also very erratic and indecisive, changing his mind daily on how he wanted things done, the format he wanted reports, whatever. So by necessity, I started keeping a little journal just to keep track of what his latest direction was and my progress of where I had left off on things I had to remember. But before long, that notebook turned into something else and turned out to be a place where I could safely vent my frustrations and get it down on paper, the things that were annoying the heck out of me. So at the end of each day, I'd just write down what went wrong, how confused I felt, and how unreasonable things seemed. I got to vent a little bit. But here's the interesting part. Alongside my notes about frustration and anger were also my notes of the progress I had made, the things I had accomplished, the things that had gotten completed and were done successfully. And over time, that practice had a calming effect. It got the noise out of my head and onto paper where it couldn't keep me awake at night. And better yet, looking back through the pages, I could see that I was making progress. That even in a tough season, I was accomplishing more than I realized. And by dealing with that on paper each day, I didn't have a bunch of accumulated anger and frustration building up throughout the week. So I was actually more effective each day. And so that was my first real taste of how powerful reflection can be. It's not just about emptying out the frustration. It's about balancing the ledger. Noticing the progress and reminding yourself that you're not standing still, that you're moving forward. So here's the version I use now. It's 5 simple steps. The first one is dump. Write down one thing that stressed you today. Doesn't have to be a whole laundry list. Just one thing, one sentence. Keep it short, but get it on paper. So the second step is decode. Ask yourself, what is it about this that really got my goat? What is it about this that got me so fired up? Was it pride? Was it questioning my values? Was it fairness? Naming it matters. Get it down on paper. Just again, one more sentence. Third step is reframe it. Write down the lesson is ... and what is something you learned from it. Keep it short and simple. And then design. Write down one actionable thing you can do tomorrow different to make things just a little bit better. Something simple, something you can't say no to or talk yourself out of it. And the fifth step, and maybe the most important, is a deposit. Jotting down one small victory from today. Even if it's something as simple as, I made the kids laugh. This whole thing takes less than 5 minutes, easily fit on just a corner of a sheet of paper. But most important, it clears out the mental clutter. Gets it out of your brain, gets it down on paper, and gets your brain a little bit distant from it. So now it's not something rattling in your head, it's something that's on paper. Makes a difference. So Seneca, the ancient Roman philosopher I've talked about before on this, in one of his letters to his friend Lucilius wrote, "This idea must be strengthened and implanted more deeply by daily reflection. It's more important for you to keep the resolutions you have already made than to go on to make more noble ones." Now, if you prefer science to philosophy, here's the brain-based explanation for this. Neuroscientists call this self-distancing. By externalizing the event, getting it out of your brain and onto paper, you shift from being an actor in the drama to being an observer. And when you do that, your prefrontal cortex, the logical part of your brain, that comes back online. It's got something it can deal with. Meanwhile, your amygdala, the part of your brain responsible for fight or flight, the part that screams danger, it starts to calm down a little bit because now something about the problem it saw has been resolved, at least put down on paper. It doesn't have to be worrying about it. So the brain scientists tell us that repeating this daily actually builds new pathways in the brain, something called competitive plasticity. In plain English, the neurons responsible for calm and rational thought, they grow new pathways, new avenues for handling things. And solution-based thinking starts to take over a little more real estate in your brain. Those old catastrophic pathways, they start to gather dust. It's not that you're suppressing the negative thoughts, you're giving them a little parking space so they don't clutter up the streets. Think of it that way. That's why this practice lowers stress, fosters resilience, and improves your emotional well-being. So now my nighttime version of this, sometimes I'll wake up 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, my mind just whirling. Usually I can go back to sleep, but sometimes I'll lay awake and just start worrying about bills, about, oh, I should have did this different, I should have did that different, what's going to happen if this happens, what's going to happen if that happens. You know how it goes. You just get into one of those spirals and your brain just goes crazy. And so I found that to get myself out of this loop of replaying all these what ifs, I try to focus on 1 or 2 things, positive things that I'm grateful for. Good things that happened, even if it's just simple as, oh, I remember how I made the grandkids laugh today, or boy, that was sure a good bowl of soup I had for lunch. Just a simple thing, just to break that little track of these whirling thoughts, these negative thoughts. So getting back to my buddy Seneca, he said much the same thing in one of his letters. He says, "After my wife has fallen asleep, I carefully examine my entire day and review my deeds and words. I don't hide anything from myself and overlook nothing. For why should I fear anything from my errors? when I'm able to say to myself, make sure you don't do that any longer, and now I forgive you. Just as simple as that, but so powerful. That's the key, not hiding, not beating yourself up, but acknowledging it, noticing it, forgiving yourself, and adjusting, moving on. So I really believe that stumbling really kind of accidentally into this practice when I was working overseas is what really kept me from getting so totally frustrated and just throwing in the towel and coming home. Because I really considered it for a brief period of time. And the change wasn't instant. But after a week, I could tell I was less bothered. And after a few weeks, I was sleeping much better at night and waking up refreshed and ready to go tackle it all over again in the morning, knowing that, it's just a day, we'll get through it, and I'll move on. Well, Seneca again, he said, as each day arises, welcome it as the very best day of all and make it your own possession. That's what these little notes do. They keep yesterday's troubles from stealing today's joy. So now before you start, let me give you 3 pitfalls to try to avoid. So pitfall number 1 is don't turn it into a memoir. 1 sentence per step, ideally. If you start writing paragraphs, you'll drift into rumination, which is just your negative inner voice running crazy. So pitfall number 2 is writing only gratitude. Gratitude is a wonderful thing. Everyone should have it. But if in this process, if you ignore naming the thing that's giving you stress, you're ignoring the part that your brain really needs to process. This isn't about toxic positivity. It's about balance. Acknowledging the challenge and the good. And pitfall 3 is a tough one, using your phone. It's very tempting. But the blue light plus the notifications equals distraction. Pen and paper. I like using a little journal. They're your best friends here. They keep the loop closed. It's just you and your thoughts and the act of reflection. So here's my challenge to you. Try this for just 7 nights. 7 nights, 7 little scraps of paper, and 5 minutes of your time each night. See if it makes a difference. See if you feel a little bit better in the morning, having dumped that little stress, that little annoyance on paper and focused on something positive before you went to bed. I think after a week you'll start to see a difference. You'll start to feel a little different. So, friends, life's pressures aren't going to go away, but we don't need to add to them with our own inner voice. There's enough in the outside world already. We don't need to pile onto ourselves. Seneca said, it's not that we have such a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. So let's not waste our nights on worry. Let's close each day with some gratitude, with some lessons learned, and with one small win, however minor it might be. So that's the 5-minute shift. A little piece of grandfatherly wisdom, if you will, a little bit of life advice, even a touch of parenting advice, all rolled into one. And I promise you, it can change everything. It can change the way you feel. So thanks for spending a few minutes with me. If this resonated with you, I'd love for you to leave a little story in the comment, or a little thumbs up or whatever. So I'd love to hear what you have to say. So till next time, this is Opa wishing you to have a very great day.